Hey everybody, Jesse at Better CNC here, finally doing a video going over my MicroDynamics Mega 30V machine. I've had this machine for about a year and a half now. Figure I've got plenty of use out of it to be able to give a good thorough review. To give you some general specifications on the machine, it is 40 horsepower, 15,000 RPM, rapids at just over 2,000 inches per minute, machines at 787 inches per minute, and can tap at 6,000 RPM. This machine is just an absolute tank. It is the main workhorse for my shop. Between this and a machine I've had a little bit longer, my 2005 Leadwell V30, the Micro does the bulk of my work. So this is a very, very solid machine. And everything that I just said that this machine has is base. That is the stock build. I've added nothing onto this machine. It uses a Mitsubishi M80 controller with some customizations added in by MicroDynamics. The lights don't blink like that. It's just something between the camera and the lights. But it is primarily, a Mitsubishi controller. If you're familiar with Mitsubishi, this should be plug and play for you. If you're familiar with Fanuc or Haas or anything like that, it really doesn't take that long to get used to it. I went through about 4 hours of training and a few rounds of text messages with support to answer questions I had on the go, and I was up and running. So let's go over the controller. So the controller is kind of your standard panel that you see. I really like this layout. It's really easy to use, real convenient once you get used to it. It swings around just like most of them do. I'm going to go to wide view a little bit. One big plus about this though is you could actually adjust the controller however you want. There's a little button over here. You could raise it up where I usually keep it at an angle, or if you're in production mode and just want to keep everything streamlined, you can fold it down and it goes flush with the machine. You can see it's got a grip over here, so you can do it with two hands. But I mean, it's easy enough. I can press this button here and we're back at like a 30-degree angle or something like that. So for your comfort, you can kind of put it wherever you like. And the layout, let's say, is nice. You got all your different modes up here. You got your switches right here for, let's say, your memory, your jog, things like that. Spindle, rapid, feed rate, your XYZ movement. Some of your, let's say, spindle controls here. Single block, op stop, block skip, auto power off. That comes with that as well. All your coolant controls, your conveyor controls, because it comes with an auger and a conveyor. But with the controller itself, that's a Mitsubishi layout. This is how they did it. I really like it. Changing programs is pretty straightforward. You could, let's say, just a couple touches and the new program is ready. I have my machine on Wi-Fi, so whenever I post, it saves it directly into the machine. I don't have to do any USB stick, memory, post-process, send, receive, any of that business. I just ship it over straight into the drive. I like this layout where you have your relative position, your program position, what distance is remaining on your current line, and what the next line is going to do. I'm sure other modern machines have this, but this is the first machine where I've really gotten to take advantage of that type feature. But the other thing with this, also part of the Mitsubishi controller, you have quick access to your work offsets if you need to adjust your wear, your length wear, things like that, and your work offsets. You can nudge them around. There's your shifts, and there's your offsets. But another nice thing with this controller is Mitsubishi gave MicroDynamics full access to the back end so they could add their own customizations. So let's go take a look at that. To get to all the custom screens that Micro put in, all you do is press list, and then you have it all right here. They've got 3 pages of different things that they've added onto this machine. One of the nice ones right here is your tool magazine. You can actually see your pots. You don't have to go to a special screen or anything like that, or go around to the side and see the number. But you can see what tool number is in what pot. You can adjust everything to normal, heavy, oversized, fixed pot just by switching right there. I've got a spindle fan. If y'all saw my other video, I got it in a oversized tool because it's over 3 inches diameter. So it's locked in with no tools around it, and the machine handles that perfectly whenever I call it around. Nice thing about all of these custom screens as well is you can change your tool from every screen. So you don't have to go, okay, I need to call out tool 10. Let me go to a different screen and do something. You could do it from right here. Saves you a couple touches, saves you a little bit of time and effort. The next screen I'm going to go over, we'll go back to our list, is tool measure. So this is where you actually set the heights for your tool. And a couple really nice things about this, you still have the change tool, which is, this is kind of the ideal place for that. You touch a tool off, you change to your next tool, and it will pre-call your next tool automatically, depending on what tool you've got out. But you have all of your tools here. And if you go down and touch a tool, all you have to do is hit measure. Measure will automatically set that. You don't have to go Z0 measure, anything like that. And if you use a gauge, it takes that gauge into account. So I have a 2-inch dial block that I use for touching off my tools. So I told it I have 2 inches there, and it'll automatically shift all my tools down 2. But whenever you touch off a tool, you literally just hit measure and it's set. And the nice thing is it turns green whenever you set it. So if you get distracted after you call a tool out, you can just look at that. If it's yellow, you haven't touched it. If it's green, you have. And it has a couple different types of layouts, orientations that you use. You can kind of look at the diagram to understand what it is. I've always used type 2. Although I think technically I'm more a type 1. But it'll take all of this into account as you go, if you prefer a different diagram. The next screen we'll go over, we'll go back to our list, is work measure. And there's a lot more to look at here. So, whether you're using an edge finder or you want to use the hard probing feature, this is the screens that you'll use. You can see over here we have manual XY, manual Z, automatic XY, and automatic Z. So with manual XY, this is where you'll be using an edge finder. And you can see it actually takes into account my edge finder radius. Whenever I edge find, I don't have to shift 100 thou like you do on most machines. I can leave it where it is and it'll know automatically. So basically, let's say we just touched the left side of our part. We could set point. Now let's go over and let's touch the back. I'm not actually doing anything, just doing this so you can see it without making this too terribly long. And set point. And you can see on the diagram, it actually shows you where it's going to set the origin based on the definition down here. So now I know, based on hitting those two sides, my origin is going to be in the back left corner of whatever I'm touching on. And you can change the diagram if you want to touch outer, if you want multiple points, to really, if you got a part that's slightly cocked or something and you want to make sure you're dead center. You could also do circles a few different ways, outer and inner. I'd say most of what I do, and I'm assuming for this for other folks, as I do a single rectangular outside. And there's some shifting you can do as well if you want to force it to move a certain direction or another. I don't use that myself, but it's available. So you can see by going to outer, our diagram has changed. Now it's showing, here's where it wants me to hit for P1, P2, P3, and P4. But all your offsets are over here. You can look at them. If you want to do some changes, you can actually verify your math. Instead of miskeying something, you can go increment input and actually make your change, look at it, make sure it visually looks like what you want it to be, and make that change. And once you're all set, all you do is say, let's say set point, set point. You can say right to work offset. It'll ask you where you want it to go. You press OK, and your numbers are set. Super simple, super straightforward. It does a lot of the math for you. It does the shifting for you. It looks at different shapes for you and does the math. Even if you do a circle with 3 points, if you're going to check the inside of a hole or something, same thing. Just hit the hole in 3 different spots. This will do the calculation for you. And it'll actually tell you the diameter that it measured as you're checking the circle. So on to the next one. Let's go to auto measure XY so I can show you what hard probing is. So one really cool feature about this machine is it does what's called hard probing. I call it hard probing. I don't know what they call it. But I am able to use a dowel pin to edge find my parts automatically. So on this screen, this is where I'm going to set it all up. We're actually going to just walk through this so you can see exactly how it works. So right now, I've got the probe kind of on the inside of the corner of my jaw. We're going to make the stop, the origin point, the corner of that jaw. So we're going to come over here. We're going to tell it we need it to touch that way and that way. We need to approach the jaw from the front and we need to approach it from the left. And we're going to go into some of the settings. And that is a 10 millimeter gauge pin. And so looking at the diagram, I needed to basically shift the radius of the pin. So we're going to tell it 5 millimeters. The probe is 10 millimeters. We want our clearance. I'm about to say it has really nice little diagrams here to help you see exactly what everything is. We're going to clearance. I normally just do 0.1 and we'll just say minus 0.2. Go down 2 inches from the position I have it in now. And then when it's all done, I want it to move to 0. And kind of like the manual method, you could do rectangle, circle, inner, outer, whatever you want. I say OK. It wants to be in MDI mode. And if you're not in MDI, it'll actually tell you. Go to MDI. So we'll tick it. We'll say OK. It's going to ask us what offset we're setting. We're going to leave it as G54. And here's your steps. Basically, make sure everything's clear of where you want it to be. Leave all your feed rates at 100, MDI mode, and press cycle start. So I'm going to say OK. I press cycle start. And away it goes. So this machine has load sensing on every axis, X, Y, and Z, which gives me this ability to probe for my origin without having to pay umpteen $1,000s for a rim shop probe or anything like that, or take the time to manually find my origin. So when it's all done, it moved right there. Our origin over here has changed to the new position, and we're ready to go. So that's just one of my favorite features about this thing. That saves a lot of time and effort, and it is nuts accurate. I've measured paper with it when I've done the Z, because we are able to do auto Z in virtually the identical process. So let's say we're making our Z to the top of the vise, top of the back of the vise. We'll do pretty much the same thing. Our parameters are, it wants to move down that far to find it if it doesn't hit anything within that. And all we do is run MDI, go to MDI mode, press OK. We're going to change G54, OK. We're going to press cycle start. And move down, touch the vise, and changed our Z height. So that's some of the nice automation. I did not pay extra for that. It just came with that, built into the software right out of the gate. I had to provide the dowel pin. We'll go back to the list. Micromill is a form of conversational programming. I'll just touch on this. I don't use conversational, but it's here. I think this may be the one that came with Mitsubishi. I'm not sure. It has a file manager where you can, let's say, edit all the files on the hard drive of the machine. It has ATC recovery, and in a year and a half, I have never had a tool change issue. But all of this is here and will walk me through the process if I need to, if anything does come up. It has DICON programming, which is, I believe, more detailed conversational programming. Like I said, I don't write in conversational, so I don't really use these myself. But it has a nice graphic you can manipulate and everything. If you use Renshaw probing, this is where that goes through, but I don't have a Renshaw probe. User manual built right into the machine. If you needed to look through all the manuals for anything, you don't have to go find a book. You don't have to go Google online. You literally have it built right in. You have user parameters where you can do some basic stuff. I've tinkered with this some, like my augers and my conveyor on a timer now, and I do that through these. But here's some of the cool stuff. These two features right here, super, super handy. So DiPEC thermal compensation. So this machine has 8 different temperature sensors all throughout the machine. On the x-axis, z-axis, y-axis, multiple through the spindle itself. And it will actually compensate for thermal expansion as the machine runs in real time to the fraction of a micron. So on older machines like this, most guys know as you run it throughout the day, your Z is going to drop, the machine's going to move around. That's just what they do, what happens. That happens because of thermal expansion. On the micro, it actually does that for you. I've ran jobs where I have to hold plus minus 1,000th on Z, and it's taken me 2-3 days to run the whole order, and I never had to make a single shift the entire time. But I actually have a graph of the temperatures as they change, and I've got a graph of how it's compensated over time. So I can see the history there. If there's any anomaly, I can see if it's running hot, which it shouldn't, it never does, because it has it built in, came with a spindle chiller as well. And then over here, one thing I will note about this machine, it is a strong spindle, it is powerful, you can cut anything in the world with it, but it is a little bit fragile if you crash moving in Z. I had one crash while I was still under warranty, and it ended up breaking a ceramic bearing. Fortunately, Campat fixed that for me, no problem. Swapping the spindle out takes half a day, and then you have the break-in program if they don't do it for you. But they gave me a software update that they had actually put out not long after that, where I can calibrate the load on my machine. So pretty much what the machine will do, it'll run through a program where it just rapids each axis and figure out what the expectation of load is. And then once it has that, pretty much anytime you run, if it sees an anomaly where a sudden spike outside of that range, it'll alarm itself out. And unfortunately, I have come across that, and it actually saved my end mills. I had end mills that plunged into the jaw at full speed, and it saved them. The teeth were a little bit damaged. You could tell it was worn, but it could be resharpened, and it was good as new. So, very, very cool feature. I love having this. I know some other machines have similar features, but to get it on a machine under $100,000, I think is a pretty fortunate thing. So that's the end of the screens from MicroDynamics. Next thing I'll talk about is just kind of usability. Regarding the other features in this machine, let's go ahead and send it home. It does have a safety lock related to the door, so it will only go full speed with the door closed. That's that rapid right there. But yeah, with the door closed, it'll go full speed rapid, and it'll go to the full 15,000 RPM. I'll ramp it up. It's actually a very quiet machine. So 15,000 RPM. A little bit of a whine as it accelerates just because the amount of power it's pulling. But I'm still talking in my normal voice. Then we'll shut it down, and we're stopped. So with the door open, it limits your feed rates. So this is the fastest it'll travel with the door open, and it limits itself to 2,000 RPM. Just to keep you safe, and as fast as this thing moves, I'm okay with that. Another nice thing about this, working with it in here, is the table gets. home. So send it home. The table gets very close to the front of the machine. I mean, a fist distance between the front of the machine, which means you're not having to bend over an extra foot just to reach everything. You're just real close. I mean, I'm hardly bent over right now, and I can handle everything in my jaw. And the machine is very compact. So if we look, we're going to move the table to its limit. So you can see all the way to the side, it goes within an inch of the side. No extra foot over there just for the way covers, because the way covers actually go under the table on this machine. Same thing to the back as well. It's all very, very tightly knit, very compact, which helps you keep a smaller footprint on the floor. I've actually got to be careful. The way my stop's hanging off will hit the ways in the back. So that's the back. That's as far as it goes to the back. I mean, you could tell just over like maybe 2 inches there. If the weight covers were down, then it would be closer. So it's very compact, very easy to reach everything. This is me just reaching out. I'm not really bent over. My legs are touching the machine, but that's pretty much it to be able to reach your tool holder. Your release button is on the spindle. And you could tell, if you hadn't noticed, we've got a coolant ring built in. We've got coolant nozzles all around. I got some of them turned away just because I was playing with some of the washdown stuff. And this one back here is actually air. So I have it set to where I can turn coolant on with the door open. But we can blow air out of that back one. Or we've got that. I've been cutting plastic, so I didn't really need the whole of it. Plenty of coolant flow. Coolant's never really been an issue. So you get plenty of coolant coverage, you get fast tool changes, you got compact format. I gotta clean out my vacuum plate now. It is very well lit. You can see we've got 2 big lights on either side. We got a separate light up top behind the door. Just very easy to use. You don't have to bend over nearly as much, especially moving heavy stuff in and out with this machine. And you got options. And I loved having that air for when I cut some plastic stuff. And I don't really need coolant, but you still want to blow the chips out of the way. That came with the machine. I didn't have to add that on. Built right in. Some other really nice things is chip management. So like I said earlier, the machine came with 2 augers, came with the conveyor. My conveyor spits out the right side, but it's actually ambidextrous. You could flip it pretty easily. It's just like 4 bolts and 2 people can turn the whole thing around to the other side of the machine. And it also comes with base wash. So you can wash it out, as well as a built-in spray gun. I did not add this. This came with the machine. So I can hose everything down, so when you get weaker spots, you can wash that out right there. So super, super handy. It makes it really easy to keep the machine clean. And I have the augers, the conveyor, and the base wash all set where I can program them in my programs from Fusion 360. I don't have to manually edit the code, put that in, anything like that. I can just tell the program, run the augers, run the base wash, do whatever it is I need to do, run the air. I can control the air blast from Fusion as well. So from a usability standpoint, super, super handy, super easy. Lots of just little features that you could tell they care, like lose that distance right there. That saves your back so many times if you're running big plates. And to get all these features, just to let everyone know, I don't know if it's changed. I bought this machine in, towards the end of 2022, but I paid $98,000 for this. With everything built in, the power, the RPMs, the base wash, the chip management, everything was only $98,000. May have gone up. Everything's kind of gone up over the last couple of years, but I know that was kind of a key point for them, is to keep this machine under six figures. So let's go around, look at some of the other sides of the machine, some of the other features around it. This is the back of the machine. You see you got your power switch, you got a filter on the fan for the cabinet for anybody that needs it. You do have an RS-232 and an Ethernet port, or RJ45, built right in. You have this cabinet over here, which is where you have your oils and your filter. So you got your Waylube oil, and you've got your air filter oil, all easy to access, easy to control. You got a little extra spot where water can pull out if you got a lot of moisture in your lines. But all right here, easy to access. And this machine has a integrated skimmer. So if you pour in oil and you overflow the oil a little bit, which happens sometimes, it actually has a drain that runs to a tank in the back. So we'll close that up. We'll step right over here. So we got this little door right down here. So it has a skimmer system back here off the coolant tank that actually pulls oil right out. It'll collect it, and that little drain from up there fills it up as well. So easy to get to, just right in the back of the machine. And then if we come over here, we've got our chiller. So it has its own filters. You got to clean and maintain. The chiller came with the machine. I didn't add this on. This is just something that comes with it. Then if we go around to the far side, we've got our coolant filters. So you have an initial catch, you have a basket catch. They're both pretty easy to get to and to keep clean. It came with the scraper so you can drag it. But chip management, that pretty much keeps anything out of the system. If you let it get clogged up, then you get chips on the back like this. Happens to be sometimes I run some big plastic stuff that overflows. A little bit of a wrap. That has been kind of a lot of the core features of the Micro. From my experience, I love this machine. Right now, my intent is to kind of grow my shop with these machines. I'm hoping to get a 5-axis one by the end of the year. It's very solid, it's reliable, it's consistent with the, pretty much if I get tight tolerance stuff that's within a 10,000th of an inch, I write the program to size, I put in a fresh brand new end mill, and it comes out exactly where I programmed it. It's very, very consistently done that for me. So holding reliable results, consistent results, and holding tight tolerances has never been a problem for me. And just everything I went over is only $98,000. That's more than a Haas, but with all the features you get onto it, Haas doesn't really have anything that compares to this that I've seen in terms of getting that power and that speed and all the add-ons. I've got 40 gigs of memory on this thing, so I don't have to pay for extra memory. It's got look ahead built in. All these add-ons are part of the base package for this machine. I'm able to run faster and harder. I've never had a machine where I actually outrun my end mills. Most of the time, if the only way to break an end mill is to do something stupid, now I can actually push the end mills harder than what they're designed to do. Not that I do that, but I'm able to. That means I can take full advantage and make my programs as efficient as possible. The service for this machine, I bought mine from Campat Machine Tools over in East Plano. Service has been great. They're very responsive, very hands-on, very personal with you. I've got a few technicians. If I have a problem, I can reach out directly to them. I don't have to get in line, get on the list or anything like that. I can just ping them with my question. When I crashed my spindle and broke the ceramic bearing on it, they were out, I believe, within 3-4 days. They were out here with the new spindle. The bearing cracking didn't stop me from working. It had a whine. It's not something you want to live with, but you can go a little bit with that type of thing without hurting anything. Thanks to that thermal chart, I was able to actually keep an eye on the temperature and make sure it's not elevating too much. But they were out within a couple days. Actually swapping the spindle was only about a 4-hour process. And sometimes they can actually, I believe they can actually break in the spindle before they give it to you. So once they put it in your machine and align it, you're good to go. If you have to do the break-in process, it takes about 10 hours, so you pretty much lose a day. But service has been great for me. Service will vary from dealer to dealer depending on where you buy it from. I can't speak for everyone. I can only speak for Campat. in my experience so far. One of the ways they're able to keep this machine priced the way it is, with everything it has, is they use as many off-the-shelf parts as they can. From what I remember them describing to me when I first bought this machine a while back, or first looked at it a couple years ago, they use as many off-the-shelf parts, which will help with availability of components, so you never have to wait that long. They can get parts virtually anywhere, and you are not limited to just your dealer for repairs. Because it's off-the-shelf parts, they're not having to go back specifically to MicroDynamics for a lot of the components. So if you need someone else to repair it, I believe you have that option. I've always gone through my dealer because they've done a good job for me. I've just never had the need to look elsewhere. So yeah, service is great, quality is great. What am I missing? Programming it is pretty straightforward. My experience with the micro so far, just for your own comparison, anything I've run on my lead well that I moved to this machine, my programs are usually at least halved. Depending on what else, if there's surfacing involved as well, I can usually get it to a third of the time on the lead well. For reference, that's a 10 horsepower, 8,000 RPM machine, which is pretty typical for a lot of your older used machines, things like that. But I'm having my cycle times moving it over here, and that's for prototypes and production alike. So the specs you get for only 98,000, that's a pretty stupendous machine that I've been obscenely happy with. So if you have any other questions, you want to know anything else about it, let me know. I'll do a follow-up video. I'll put out little shorts kind of covering little things I've talked about here. Hope everyone has a good day, and see you next time.